learning, are not focused to learning. And if we talk about citizens in general, I think our political systems are undergoing, I don't know if it is a crisis, but a difficult time in regards to truth and the way that politicians are beginning to, they are using social media.
And so, free suggestion.
My suggestions. Well, this is a very difficult and complex question. I think what we have to do is to use the same social media that is used, by the different stakeholders. We need to, if we talk about the educational system, well, we need to find a way to reach those who take, these big macro decisions in regard to education. If I talk from the library side, I think we librarians lack skills in politics. Most of us tend to focus on our small, limited information world, organizing it, trying to provide the services. But if we want to have a greater impact, we certainly have to get into the political game. I don't mean to become politicians, but to know the rules and the strategies that the politicians use. And I would use the same analogy or the same recommendation for the educational sector. We have to learn how to influence decision-making at universities, at schools, at educational systems, either basic or higher education. So my best, I would say my main suggestion is that we need to learn strategies to advocate for information literacy. If we do this job well, it will certainly help society to have this knowledge base that they need for good decision-making and more efficient learning.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesus. A second question is focused on student. In particular, the issue of assessment, which is very important for learning, but very difficult, especially if we don't have educator background. And so what do you recommend to librarians?
Well, I think we have to read. If we are librarians, well, we are working in information-rich environments. What we need to do is to use the materials that we have. In other words, we need to learn, we need to read about pedagogy and educational strategies. We as librarians do not read or do not, well, I would put it in a more positive way. We librarians can benefit a lot from the things that we do on daily basis, in the collections that we have, by gaining more knowledge on pedagogical strategies in the classroom. When we come out from library schools, we don't have these skills, and we learn by trial. But certainly this trial process can be accelerated if we read, about the subject or take training. If we work for universities, universities have plenty of training opportunities in regard to education. It's just a matter for us to enroll in these workshops or courses that institutions normally offer. And if our institution doesn't offer that, I'm sure in every city there will be, educational opportunities to be a better library trainer or a better instructor. Now, in regard to pedagogical theories, I like the ones that rely on empowerment. The one that inspires me is this Brazilian educator that right now I don't recall his name, but he's a very well known. Let me. Well, I can give you the name later on. But basically, we need to empower people to be critical about what they listen, about what they read, about what they see. And every message, according to this expert, has an intent, has a purpose, has a background. And we learn to understand what is the intention behind everything that we receive. In regard to assessment, the strategies that I like is of constructivist type. I like my students to self-evaluate, to auto-evaluate themselves. When they learn how to evaluate themselves, they don't need you because they can assess themselves. It is a difficult process for most of us because we tend to be either too harsh or too soft on what we do. But if we train our students well, they learn how to evaluate themselves, to assess the learning progress. So normally in my teaching activities, I include a self-assessment by students. And at the beginning, I have to provide feedback. I normally give rewards to those who assess themselves well, and also I don't know what is a positive term, but I correct those who are not being objective about themselves. I normally use rubrics for them to choose what they do. The second strategy that I like to use, although it's more complex, is peer evaluation. You know, by using a rubric, asking their peers to evaluate. When they do that, they're also learning on self-assessment because when you judge, assess someone else, you're also, in a way, assessing yourself in terms of what you know. And the last one that is the list that I use, is assess to be the person in charge of assessment. I don't like to do it that much. But in some cases you have to do it. And the role that I take is to try to help the students in terms of providing feedback and a fair grade.
Thank you. Very important suggestion. Thank you very much. The other question is about the teachers and the difficult collaboration between the librarians and teachers. I say difficult from point of view of my experience, but probably it's difficult everywhere, not only in our country. And I would like to ask you in particular about the guidelines done by IFLA about information literacy, what they recommend for facilitating, improving.
The guidelines themselves do not include a chapter on this specific topic. The guidelines talk about, how to create links or communicate what you do. After the guidelines, there was a marketing information literacy handbook that I prepared with one of my colleagues here in Mexico. It is available on the IFLA website. This marketing manual can be used to create these bridges with faculty. It talks, about how to create a strategy, how to sell, with quotations, what you do. I think the manual at the time, it was a good contribution. Unfortunately, I myself didn't promote it well. And so I would say few people may have used it. But this manual, I think it gives very practical advice. It's not, a theoretical book. It's a handbook with the strategies to identify your objectives, to identify your community, to identify the stakeholders, and the best steps that you can take, being in a library without having a marketing department like big companies do. So I think this manual could be useful. I can send you the link later on. But I think it would be nice, I guess, to create some guidelines specifically on how to do teamwork with faculty. As you said, it seems to be a problem everywhere, even in the US that is known, or Britain, that are known for having this avant-garde information literacy work. They have the same challenge that faculty live in their own world, and librarians are conducting their lives again in a separate world. I think that the main issue is that universities in general do not have teamwork as a philosophy, as a philosophical principle of work. We tend to isolate ourselves, and when you listen to other professional communities, like those who are working in art and so on, they also complained that they are not being listened. But I think it has to do with probably our individualistic society. Faculty think that what they do is enough and is a complete strategy. But they need to have this teamwork. They will certainly benefit from the librarian's work, and the librarian will benefit from faculty by enhancing information skills. So what has worked for me, and I don't know if I can give you a couple of examples where I have succeeded in communicating with faculty. I have a current one that I think I mentioned to you when I was in Parma, and I have an older one. My first experience with faculty work was in Universidad Autónoma de Ciudad Juárez. It's a boarded university, where I was hired as a library director, as a librarian. The university president looked for me and insisted me to come to this university. And it was a privileged situation because, I was asked to come to this university. So what I did, I sort of asked for about 5 different requirements. One was, the freedom to hire good librarians, to be able to provide them with a fair salary, or a good salary. And one more that was a very important one, that the libraries were part of the first tier of the university organizational chart. In other words, that the libraries were reported directly to the university president. And I think this was probably the best requirement that I could have asked, because it meant that I could have direct communication with the university president. And I also asked for 5% of the university budget. And this president, who was elected at the time, he said yes. So I had the budget, I had the staff, and I had this direct link with the university president. That meant power. And I would say not power in the negative sense of dominating things, power in the sense that I could take decisions quickly and more meaningful, because I could know what the university needed and the university knew what the libraries could do. So in 3 years' time, I'm making the story shorter. In 3 years' time, I was asked to become the Vice President of Academic Affairs. And this was the key to really make a great information literacy reform at the university. Before that, we created a compulsory 20-hour workshop for every student who entered the university, and a 30-hour workshop for faculty. That was not compulsory, but nearly to being compulsory, because it was part of the assessment that they had to comply with. You know, this training was part of the training.
Excuse me. Thank you so much. Really, we are very, very proud that you collaborate with Navigate and you give all your knowledge and good experience, good practice to us.
I will just conclude this little bit.
Yeah.
So why or how did I reach this great opportunity to exercise, or to create an information literacy culture or information culture at the university? It had to do with politics. You had to be close, or to be able to talk to the leaders of the university. And I have a similar experience in northern Mexico right now, where this university has as a strategic principle to be an information culture university. And this means a lot, because the university president is really devoted to libraries and to information literacy. And I have worked for this university for 7 years, and information literacy has become part of the curriculum. There is a compulsory 8-credit course for every student who entered the university, and how to take it in the first year.
Wow.
But again,
Very good.
The only way to do it is to be close to those who take the decision.
Yeah.
How to get to this, to get this closeness or this this position? Well, it's probably a part of another interview.
Good. The last question is most important for Navigate, because we are now in the process of developing games, but we are also starting to discuss about impact indicators, how to assess the games. This is the phase we hope strongly that you can be involved with our team, but just starting to the first conversation, what impact indicators can you suggest to us? For example, UNESCO, some recommendation?
I must be honest and say that I don't know that much about UNESCO in regard to games. I guess they may have something, but as to what I know, I mean, to my knowledge, I haven't seen anything in this subject. Although I must say that I haven't looked for this kind of information. There may be UNESCO may have some work on this. But I don't know. I would probably have to do a search in regard to that. But my feeling is that they don't have it yet. Now, in regard to your question, the first one, I think in regard to games, you're in the right track, because our current students want to have learning processes like that are similar to social media. They want to have entertainment along with learning. And when they get to classrooms, lessons can be dry. A faculty or a professor that don't have the communication skills. So I think that the most effective approaches are those that benefit from the new social media developments. For example, what is called memes, I think it's pronounced also similar to in English. I think they also can be used in classes. If we were to use memes for learning bits during the student years, we will certainly impact the knowledge growth. But however, we take memes as distractors, as fun only, but they could be used for all sorts of information or training by providing these capsules or bits of information. So in a few words, I think that any facilitator who uses social media, or, such as games, in the teaching, he will have a greater success in the learning goals. Now, in regard to the last question, I myself, I have not used games. Well, I have used these applications that are available, that you can make a game in the class, but I haven't developed a game myself. One, because I don't have the skills, and second, because it's costly. You need, computer experts. If I could have the resources, I would probably use it. The other challenge with games is that they become obsolete so quickly. Because, from one year to another, there is a new technology, a new software, a new way to do things. So it's a never-ending task. It consumes more time than, the regular paper or PowerPoint presentations that last longer. This one, you need to have a department at a university who will be able to help and to provide this kind of services. And there are some games that can be, across different fields. So I wish I could develop them. I don't have the skills, and the second, I don't have the institutional support to develop them.
Jesus.
Mexico, Mexico is a large country. It has a large economy. I think we're number 14 in the world. But we do not have this kind of development that much. There are some games, but as far as I know, in information literacy, I haven't seen anyone in Mexico. So I think this is a development that has to be taken into account. I have seen them more in Europe. For example, Germans. At the ESL conference, there have been papers presenting games. But this is sort of like a very high technology use for learning.
But I am happy to listen from you that you could be interested to develop games. I hope you can help navigate to develop the games. We are just in the development phase. We have a strong engineering department, and so we are supported by colleagues with the right background. But if we can collaborate together, it could be fantastic.
I will certainly be glad to explore this new field.
And so you are embedded in Navigate team since now. And
thank you.
To see you in Parma very soon. And thank you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you. I think that I can stop
the interview. Okay. Well, thank you for the interview.